Yeah, we are discussing the users, right? Yeah, this is one more important task in the admin part, how to register the users. Okay. So for accountability, each person who uses a SAS environment should have an individual SAS metadata identity, right? So what this user ID do is it control over a user's access to metadata resources. Okay. And means you can access the metadata resources. Okay. Uh, if you don't have any user ID password, then we can't connect to the metadata. Then control over a user's access to application features. Not only the metadata resources, we can even use the application features like stored process and other things. The ability to audit individual actions in the metadata layer. Means we can even check like what we have done. We can audit everything. I mean, the earlier programs also what we have done. Then access for each user to a personal folder in the repository. So user means obviously we will be having our own personal metadata and we'll be having a personal repository also. Okay. So user will store the information in a form of repository where the metadata will store, will get stored. Then we can access with our credentials only to that particular personal folder, okay, in the repository. Then how to register the users here? A user's metadata identity includes a copy of the external account that user uses to log on to SAS applications. Here you can see, there are two types of accounts in SAS, right? One is the external account, one is the internal account. So what is an external account and internal account? Okay, let me show you what is an external account and internal account. So this is the environment. So when I open this SAS environment, so it's asking the credentials, right? Then we have given instructor, then student one like that. Okay. So we have a list of the like users. So here I access the system with the instructor and some hyphen WHO question mark like that. Or else you can access the system
ऐसे
using
बंद
the
कर दो क्यों ना
Ahmed also. Okay.
हाँ
And
मैं सुन रहा हूँ यहाँ पर
once again.
आप बंद कर क्या जी मैं सुनते हो ना मैं से
And you can access, okay, using different user IDs. Okay. See, for example, I installed this operating system. So while accessing to this operating system, actually we create some users. It's not like SAS related. So these are the OS users, actually operating system users. When you see these local users and groups, okay, so we have different users here. Ahmed, Alex, Anita, Barbara, Ben, Bruno, like this. So these are all the external users list only. What is an external users means? While installing operating system, okay, here we are not relating anything with SAS. Okay, so I install the OS. Then after installing the OS, so usually if you want to create a new user, so usually what we do, we go to the control panel. Then here we have a user account. In the user accounts, if you want to add a new user, then we'll be adding create a new account and give a new username and give the credentials and permissions, authorizations and everything. Okay? So that he will become a new user. So these are called the system users, not the SAS users, right? So system users. The system users are called the external users. Means these people having the capability to use the entire resources present in our environment or system, right? It's not only the SAS. So these are called the external users. Then what is an internal user? Internal user means you go to SAS environment. In the SAS environment, you create a user. So the user means internally you are creating a user in the SAS environment. See, for example, the Oracle. While installing the Oracle, we'll be selecting like a username and password, right? What is that one? Scott Tiger, like that. Okay. Then when you select that Scott and Tiger to invoke the Oracle or to access to a database present in the Oracle, okay, but that Scott and Tiger cannot be used for the system, right? When you're opening the system, if you use the Scott and Tiger, it won't work because that Scott and Tiger is only for the Oracle database, right? So that is an internal user, okay? And when you take the MySQL, we use root and root. So that is for the MySQL internal user. In the same way, when you are installing the SAS, okay, so we will select some external users also, or else if you want, you can add some internal users within the SAS environment itself. So once you create the internal users, then these internal users cannot be used as a external users to, open any other, system tools or any. We cannot do any type of the system administration type of things using these SAS users. Okay, but if you have an external user, if you can use the same external user to use the SAS environment also by providing the authorizations and authentications. Okay, so this is the difference between the external user and internal user. So when you look at this slide, these are the different users, authentication provider, like maybe operating system, maybe Active Directory, like this, Brenolds, eFrazier, DSilver, pMorphy, like this. We have different users, system users are there. These are the external users. So I created John, means I have given uh, access to these people: John Smith, Steve Miller, okay, Mark Robert, Jane Doe. So these four are already external users. So I made these external users to use my SAS environment also. Means external user can act as a internal user also. Okay, so they have the complete access. Got it. So the foundation repository. I gave the access to the foundation repository. Means I made these people as a administrators or unrestricted users. Okay. So this is how you can register the users, or else go to the management console. There's a user management. Then go to the user management and create a new user, and consider them as a internal users, not as the external users. Okay. And we should give some unique names only. See, for example, I have given Stephanie, which is already existing on the server. Means the internal user, the external user, uh, whatever, whether it is internal or external, but there should be a unique name. Okay, you should not give the same name again and again. Later, group identities. So what's the group identities? Yeah, usually what we do, not only a user, usually we'll be making groups also. Group means like we created 4 users. Then these 4 users belongs to which group? Either sales related or marketing groups. So we'll be creating groups also. Along with the users, we'll be creating groups, and we'll keep some users as a particular group. Okay. And we can make the identities also. Identities, for example, I created a user. Okay. Then I want to keep this user in a sales group. Then for sales group, I have given some permissions and some credit. I have given some permissions to the sales. Okay. Then if you keep this person in the sales group, automatically this person also will get the entire, the permissions, whatever given to the sales. Means group permissions we have given separately. So no need to give the permissions again to the individual user. Got it? So we are sharing the entire permissions to this new user also, if we keep that user in that particular group. So we are creating the groups also. Then how many types of groups are there? Actually, there are 2 types of groups. One is the public, the second one is the SAS users. SAS users means actually the SAS users also, it's a part of public only, right? Everyone belongs to the public only, right? So SAS users, is a group of the public only. Okay, so there are 2 types. You can see this initial connection. Actually, what happens is a client. Client means, let's take the environment like enterprise guide. So to access to the enterprise guide, I'm giving an ID and password. Okay, then this will go to the metadata server. The metadata server will check whether your ID and password is correct or not. Okay, then if your metadata, or if your work is present in some other host, let us assume it is present in some server, then this metadata server will send the connection to the host. The host also, it will check the ID and password. If it is correct, okay, then it will check the users. authentication by the Active Directory. Okay. Then later, if it is okay, then automatically it will give the permission to the host. Then from there it comes to the metadata, and from the metadata it comes to the metadata repository. Okay. If it is identical, if it is okay, if it is passed, then it will allow the client to see the metadata content like this. Anyway, this is an admin task. Okay. Uh, let's see the users group and authentication. So user, you created a single user. So we are not authorized to look anything. So we should have a user account, and also we have a SAS identity. What is a SAS identity? It is nothing but we should be in a group. Okay, we should be in a group. And what is mainly SAS identity means? You should assign some role. Okay, we have different roles. Okay? We should be assign some role, and we should be in a group. Then only like we can access any type of the metadata. Means simply having a user account and password will not allow us to connect to the environment. We should be in a group, and we should have the ACT controls, access control template permissions also we should have. So implicit membership, it is nothing but the role, the group, direct membership, then individual SAS identity. We should have a ID and password. Then we should be a person, in a group. Okay. Then the group belongs to the SAS users, and anyway it relates to the public. When we are working, we'll understand everything. Identity hierarchy. This is public. Then public means it contains the SAS users. In the SAS users, we have different individuals. Okay. So like this, we can create the hierarchies also. So public. So in the public, there are different SAS users. So within the SAS users, I created different groups, like report creator groups, HR group, finance group, like that. I can create a multiple groups. Okay. And I can create one self also. Self means like we have not assigned any type of work to them, but we can keep these persons as a separate group, like a self group like that. Then creating users and groups. Anyway, I'll be showing this. So we can create the users using two methods. One is by management console. The second one is by the SAS environment manager. Not only these two, we have a big task in the SAS administration. So how to create the users, not by management console and not by the environment manager. So there is one procedure. So for procedure, we have to use a lot of macros. It will be like this. So we should import the permissions also. See, for example, somebody created metadata. Okay. So or somebody using like what we say Microsoft BI, or like some other tools are there, like Cognos is there. Okay, Cognos and some, Informatic or some other tools are there. Data warehousing tools. So they are also the same concept. The people will create the metadata. So if you want to import that metadata into your environment along with the credentials, because you are not going to assign a new credential, right? So what are the credentials assigned there in that system? So you want to use the same user ID and password, okay, to connect your metadata. Then that time you will be using this macros technique. Okay. So again, this is a admin task. It's not a simple thing. So it will take like 2 to 3 hours to understand these concepts. So I'm skipping this one. We don't need this. Okay. Then coming to the authentication mechanisms. Okay, as I told you, we have internal and external user. Is the same thing. Then how to differentiate the internal users and external users? So only one thing. Internal user means it contains SAS PW at the end like this. An internal account has a format user ID at the rate of SAS PW. Okay. So SAS PW as a suffix for every user. SAS PW as a suffix so that you can understand that it is an internal user. External users contain no any SAS PW as a suffix. Okay. And we have some policy like how to create the internal accounts. The account do not expire and are not suspended due to inactivity. The accounts will be there, but you can choose like how long you want to keep the account active. Then password supposed to be at least 6 characters. So this is the same thing. Do not have to include mixed case and numbers, and do not expire. So you can use any type of 6 characters. Okay. Then the 5 most recent passwords for an account cannot be reused for that account. There is no mandatory time delay between password changes. You can change any time. After 3 failed attempts to log on, an account is locked. If an account is locked because of logon failures, further logon attempts cannot be made for 1 hour. For an account that has a password expiration period, there is a forced password change on the first use after the password is reset by someone other than the account. Okay, so these things you can do. Later, yeah, this is the same thing like internal authentication. So I have given the password and credentials. Then it connects to the metadata server. Then from the metadata server, it will go to the metadata repository. If the metadata repository opens, okay, then it will inform the administrator. Okay, then automatically you can connect to the metadata server and you can access the metadata information. So internal account, the same thing, SAS ADM at the rate of SAS PW means the suffix should be SAS PW to identify the internal account. Okay. Then metadata users and groups. Just now I told you about the groups. So we have different users, okay, and different groups also. So for example, SAS trusted user. It comes in the SAS system services, SAS administrator, SAS environment manager, service account. These two will be considered as SAS administrators. Then SAS SRV, SAS trusted user. Again, these two comes under SAS general support. Means a single user can be part of multiple groups also. See, for example, you take the SAS administrator. He's a part of the SAS administrator group. Okay. Then SAS EV super users group. Then SAS EV guest group also we can keep him. Okay. Then SAS administrator, we can keep him as an individual account also. Okay. Anyway, all these are SAS users, and all these users and everyone is a subset of the public. So we can make the groups. Anyway, I will show the groups also. Then administering the roles and identities. So what are the metadata roles? Means not only a user or not only a group, we will be assigning some roles also to the individual person. For example, I created an Anita. So for Anita, I should give her a role, whether she is a dashboard builder or whether she is a web report builder or she is a DA developer, okay, or I mean, what type of role she is playing. So we should assign some role to that particular person, okay. And also we should give permission like to access. See, for example, I am working on enterprise guide, okay. So you can see here, roles determine which user interface elements are visible to which users. See, for example, I am opening a enterprise guide, okay. So I don't have access to the enterprise guide, okay. I'm opening the enterprise guide. I can see the enterprise guide, but I cannot see any type of the task in the enterprise guide to do, okay. Or sometimes they will restrict connecting to the enterprise guide also. Though the enterprise guide is installed in my system, I cannot use the enterprise guide because of the restrictions, okay. And even some menu icons also you cannot find because of the restrictions, okay. So the entire metadata you cannot view, okay, or you cannot write the metadata sometimes, or you cannot read the metadata sometimes. You cannot view that particular task in the client environment, or you cannot view some menu items also because of the restrictions. So these are called access control templates. So we'll be creating some templates. So in those templates, we will write the access related information, okay, and we can control the access. So anyway, I will show that ACTs also. So these are the metadata roles. Then metadata roles means we can administer using the SAS management console as well as the environment manager, right? Then these are the role capabilities. See, for example, if it is like this, you can see the tree here, no capability selected. If you have like this, some capability selected, all capabilities selected like this, okay. When you open the enterprise guide, okay, so I mean, oh yeah, I will show you like this. For example, let's go to the management console. Here I am connecting with the my server, connecting to the connection profile called the my server. So my server means here you can see I gave the admin and student one. So these are the admin ID and password. So when I gave admin and this admin credentials, okay, and open the management console, you can see here different types of managers are there: authorization manager, data library manager, foundation service manager, metadata manager. Like this, I have all the management plugins are there, right? So go to the tools, plugin manager. So here you can select which plugin you want to view or which plugin you want to, you don't want to view. Okay, so you can select the role-based access enabled here. But as an administrator, you have this capability to view and to change all this, right? Okay, let us assume I am connecting with a different user. Okay, I am connecting to the management console, not as the admin. I am connecting as some test. What is a test? Test is one more profile I created. So for the test, I used some Anita. Anita is user actually existing Anita. Then student one.
This is not a admin.
Yeah, Anita is not an admin actually. User. Yeah. Now you can see I connected to the management console with this Anita. Can you see here we have only authorization manager, then data library manager. That's it. User manager also. That's it. You cannot find any other things. Okay. You cannot see the tools also here. Okay, because Anita, like she doesn't have the permissions to view all the management plugins. Okay, and that too, even she doesn't have the ACT controls also. Okay, let us see the user manager. So these are all the different users. You can see only users. So these many people we have: SAS administrator, trusted user, demo user, anonymous web user, JX. Who is the JX? Business analyst. If you have individual names, then we can say these people as a individual users only. You see Anita, BA application developer, George application developer, Marcel BA developer. So the Marcel will be having more plugin authorizations. We connected with Anita, right? So Anita is having authorization manager, data library manager, only these two, and user manager also. Okay, let's connect with this Marcel. Go to the file, connection profile, and here you can create one more connection profile also. Let's make it as test2. The same mission, localhost. Then what is the name? Marcel. Yeah, Marcel. Then student one. Yeah, here Marcel also we have the same authorization manager, data library manager only. So yeah, might be the Marcel also having the authorization only to these two plugins. Let's connect with the edit also. Gloria. Student one. Yeah, here also I think except administrator. For all the other users, we have given only authorization manager and data library manager credentials only. I mean, plugin restriction only. Okay. Okay. Anyway, let us see the use. I mean, after the users, see the groups. So how many groups are there? SAS users, public, administrators, system services, general servers, then table server. Like this, you have different types of the groups: marketing group, sales group, marketing manager group, sales manager group, data integrator group, or in star users group, report consumers, like that. We have different groups. Then you can see the roles also. Roles means enterprise guide advanced programming role. Means for some people, I have assigned this role. For some people, we have assigned the analysis role, enterprise guide analysis role, dashboard administration role. Who comes in the dashboard administration role? Go to the properties. You can check here. Dashboard administration members. So current members are not there. Nobody is there. So if you want, you can assign. Then capabilities. What are the capabilities for this administration? BA dashboard administration is they have these capabilities. You can see, right? There are three branches are there, right?
Yeah.
Just like a three. So what do you mean by this three?
For capabilities.
Yeah, no capability selected. So all capability selected means it will show with the black color, like this. Okay. So for example, model scoring. If you select this one, or else if you click here, so add in for Microsoft Office, then he can perform all these things. Okay. So we're giving the capabilities for this BA dashboard people. Actually, BA dashboard people, they won't do anything with this enterprise guide. So they will be using only the BA dashboard only, right? So that's why we have not given any permissions.
I mean, depending on their usage, like
Yeah,
the
depending on their usage, then we'll be giving. Once you create the user, then give the permissions. Okay, I will show that how to create the user and give the permissions. So these are the users, and let's connect with the admin, like my server. Okay, then role capabilities, and just now I shown you, right? Plugin manager. What type of plugin you want to view, so we can select them. Okay. Then administrative roles. We have three types of administrative roles. One is unrestricted, so nobody will restrict. So you can view any type of the metadata. So we don't need any type of the permission. Then user administration. User administration means sometimes for creating, for updating, for deleting users, for groups, roles, internal accounts, logins, and authentication domain, we have a user administration. Like he's administrator only, but he's not an unrestricted administrator. Means he will be having only limited. Like he can create the metadata, he can update the metadata, he can delete the users, he can create the groups, right? But few things this person cannot process. Then metadata server operation. Operation means like we can operate the metadata servers as an administrator only, but not as unrestricted, and we cannot create an update. So this person is having, he can monitor, he can stop the servers, he can pause the servers, then resume twice, and it is repository. So he can add the repository install like that. Okay. Then connecting to a workspace server. Anyway, this is a simple thing. First, when you are working on enterprise guide, okay. So when you are working on enterprise guide, it won't act alone, right? So we have to connect to the metadata server. Metadata server is something what it is having metadata repository. So from the metadata repository, the metadata content will be accessed through this metadata server, right? Now, this SAS enterprise guide, always the object spanner is very important. What the object spanner do? To run the SAS code, okay, to run the workspace server, pool workspace server, stored process web server, everything will depend on the object spanner only. So the object spanner only, it will enable the, this one, workspace servers, okay, and the pool workspace servers to work, right? So it will give the commands to the workspace servers and pool workspace server to run. So that's why when you are running any program, when it is connecting to the base SAS, obviously the object spanner should be invoked. Okay. Then object spanner later, I mean, to send the code to the SAS environment by the object spanner, definitely we need the user IDs and password. So it will check the, I mean, the IDs and password, then it will run. Okay. So to connect to a workspace server or connecting to any other server, we need this spanner. Okay. So yeah. So this is about the users. Now let's work here, how to create the users. So first of all, what we do, we'll create the repositories. Okay. So I already explained you the repositories, right? One is foundation repository, the second one is the custom repository, third one is the project repository. So I'm creating repositories now here. Let's take the paint. So I'm creating repository hierarchy here. Okay, let's assume this is a foundation repository. Okay, and this is a custom repository, and this is also one custom repository. Later, creating two more project repositories here, like this. So let's build a tree like this. So it is a foundation repository. So it's a foundation repository. So, right. Then this is standalone, right? It is standalone. So here in the management console, actually you can see my server. What is the name of this metadata? My server, right? My server. So my server is the metadata name, and you can see the repository is the foundation repository. So for this foundation repository, I gave the name called the my server. So foundation is repository. What's the name I have given? My server. My server. Then what are the user credentials here? I connected with the Ahmed and student one, right? So user ID and password is Ahmed and student one. Ahmed, then student one is the ID and password. Okay. Then here I am creating two custom repositories. Okay. One is sales. The other one is marketing. So first I'm creating two repositories. Okay. Then here, how to create a repository? Just go to the metadata manager. Okay. Then foundation repository is there. So simply right click here, new repository. What is your repository? Sales repository. Just type as sales. Then path. I told you, right? Whenever you create a repository, it should have a physical location, physical path. So let's go to, I have an S drive here. So I'm creating one folder like sales repository. Then create one more folder, that is marketing repository. Then browse and give that location. It's an S drive, sales repository. Then click on next and then finish. So we created a repository called the sales. Now go to that location, open the sales repository. Yesterday I told you, right? Xentry, ACC. So this is the repository information. Okay, you can see these as a data sets. Yeah, by default. I mean, whenever you see this, then you should feel that it is the repository metadata. Okay, so I mean, you cannot open these actually. So it contains the registry information. It contains the user ID and password information. So it contains, the basic information, repository basic information. Okay. And you can see here, each repository will be assigned a separate ID, because I gave this as a name, right? But the system cannot identify this with the name. It will give an ID. So this is the repository ID, and this is a custom repository. This is a repository path. Okay. Yeah. So in the same way, we can create one more repository, that is the just like this marketing repository also we'll create. Right click, new repository, marketing.
But the repository is creating under this active server. It's by default is custom repository, right?
By default,
The custom repository.
yeah, custom repository only. Yeah, under this active server, automatically they will become custom repositories only. Yeah, no need to mention actually. Okay. Then custom repositories only. What is that? Marketing, right? Yeah. Again, in a separate ID, got assigned. Okay. Now let's create the project repository. So project repository means it's an user related. See, for example, I am let's create only one. Let's make it an Anand. Okay. So it is with some like Hamid like that. So we are creating two the project repositories. But the project repositories means these users should be available, right? So here we don't have those users actually. So to create the project repository, first of all, you should create these two users, Anand and Hamid. So go to the user manager here.
Okay, there should be in metadata, right? I mean,
yeah.
The user must be there in metadata.
Yeah. After you create the user, then that will be available in the metadata. Then you'll be using only those users, because the users should be available, because the users are not the external users. We are creating the internal users now.
Yes.
So in the user manager, here you can see different users are there. So show users, right click, new user. Let's give Anand as a name. Then display also as a Anand. You can give the job title, description. You can add the email, phone number, address also, because once you finish your job, you will be like transporting your metadata, or you will be like exporting your metadata. So if somebody wants like your information, like who created the metadata, if they have the doubts, they can contact you, right? So that's why the user information also you can store here in the form of metadata. Then groups and roles, job title. Okay, let's make it as a second admin. Okay, second admin or admin 2 like that. Then groups and roles. So what is your role? Let's make it as a SAS administrator. Then account ID and password, new. What is the user ID? Let's make it as Anand only. Password is SAS123. Okay, I'm giving SAS123 as a password, SAS123, but you should remember. Then click on OK. Then authorization. So add selected identities. You will be acting as Ahmed only. Okay. Then click on OK. And you're permitted to read metadata, write metadata, and check in the metadata. I mean, the basic things I have given. Okay. Then groups. So anyway, you are the person belongs to the admin only, because I set you in the admin group. Then let's create one more user. Amit. So EG user, enterprise guide user. So groups and roles, enterprise guide analysis programming, then analysis advanced and programming, accounts. Let's give a Hamid, then SAS123, SAS123, the same password. Okay. Then authorization, add, and identity as a some like report consumer or can give identical. Identical means he will be getting the same credentials, I mean the same permissions as these people have. Yeah, then granting the permission, click on OK. So we created 2 users. Okay. Now, yeah, we created users. That's it. Later, we should create these 2 repositories. One is Anand, the other one is Amit. One second, the